This is question number 5, or exercise number 5, again dealing with break-even analysis. Part A, what is Relco's break-even number of accounts using the data and assumptions above? Round to the nearest whole number. So we're trying to figure out what their break-even point is in accounts. Okay. If we Rotelco is one of the largest digital wireless service providers in the United States. In a recent year, it had approximately 100 direct subscriber accounts that generate a revenue of $47,400. Costs and expenses for the year were as follows. We have cost of revenue, $21,500. Selling and general and administrative expenses, $13,800. Depreciation, $5,200. Assume that 60% of the cost of revenue and 25% of the selling, general, and administrative expenses are variable to the number of direct subscribers. So we need to figure out what the contribution margin is. Sales minus our variable costs equals contribution margin. The cost of revenue, they said 25%, so we're going to make that calculation. I'm going to multiply 21,500 times 25%. Oh, 60%. Yeah, I grabbed the wrong one. You're right. Thank you. This will be 25. So let's change that. We'll make that correction in making this 60%. So 21,500 times 0.6 is 12,900. All right. And for my general selling and admin, that's supposed to be 25%, so I'll take the 13,800 times 0.25, $3,450. Okay, so there's my variable costs. I can add those together to come up with my total variable costs. Looks like $16,350. So my contribution margin, I can now calculate. Contribution margin is equal to my sales minus the variable costs. My sales were $47,700. It comes from right here. Minus my variable cost of $16,350. And that's going to leave $31,350. That number represents my contribution margin for 100 subscribers, right? For 100 subscribers. The question is, what's my break even for the number of accounts? If I take to calculate the break even, I've got to figure out the contribution margin per account. I have 100 accounts. It says I have 100 accounts. So I'm going to take the 31,350. I'm going to divide that by 100. And that, of course, would be $313.50. That's my contribution margin per account. Okay? So now I need to figure out my fixed costs. And my fixed costs would be the cost of revenue. I'm calculating my fixed costs. My cost of revenue, $21,500, minus the portion which is variable, which was $12,900. So for the selling cost, or the cost of revenue, my fixed cost portion let's see, 6, and that would be, is that 9? 9,600? Let's double check that. 8,600, that's probably right. Minus 12,9. 8,600, right. Thank you for that. So it would be $8,600 would be my fixed portion of the cost of revenue. Next, I'm going to consider my selling and admin expenses of $13,800 minus the variable portion, which is $34.50. $10,350. And I must calculate or add to that my depreciation, which was $5,200. It's right here. So my total fixed costs then, adding these together, looks like $24,150. Please double check my math. Then I can take that number, divide it by my contribution margin per unit here of $313.50, and that would tell me the break-even number of accounts. So if I take $24,150, divide it by $313.50, I would break even with looks like 77 accounts. $77.0333 whatever. So it looks like 77 accounts would be the number of accounts I would need just to break even. Now there's a part B to this question. Let me capture that. Part B, how much revenue per account would be sufficient for Rotelco to break even if the number of accounts remained consistent? So the question is how much would I really need for variable or contribution margin based on 100 accounts just to break even? So I would take the fixed costs of $24,150, right? That's my fixed costs. If I have 100 accounts, I can divide that by 100, and that will tell me how much contribution margin per unit I would need. It'd be $241.50 per account. It was just pointed out that I've actually answered part B incorrectly because it's asking me for the how much revenue, not how much contribution margin. So for the revenue, we would take the total expenses and divide it by 100. So if you added up all the expenses then, that would be the 21,500, 13,800, and the 5,200. Add those up, divide it by 100. That's how much revenue I would need. My calculation, I actually did incorrectly. I didn't answer the question. It was calculating what the contribution margin would need to be.